I don't even think I've talked about this yet. The very last lines of the record was an accident. I've always wanted to kind of write about a hotel for whatever reason. I've just always kind of been fascinated with, the fact that there are these structures where all these lives are coming in and out. There's all these ups and downs, and it kind of sums up just like, humanity in a way.
To sort of represent yourself in one of these tracks from the
Oh
record,
man.
what would that be?
Bro, I don't know, man. That's like the hardest question ever. Because if I say the wrong song, I'm gonna look like a maniac.
So I've got Tommy Rogers of Between the Buried and Me with me today. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. Lots of and me's with me's. Sorry, our name's annoying sometimes.
Do you get more people like calling you guys BTBAM or is it
Yeah,
Between the Buried and Me?
yeah,
BTBAM.
yeah.
Okay.
BTBAM. Yeah. And my mom, she calls it BTBAM. I'm like, you're taking just as long to say it like that.
It's like yeah, one of those things in the office where he's trying to like shorten everything, but it makes it actually longer.
Exactly. But I'm
Um,
good. You're good? Everything good?
Yeah, it was good, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surviving. We're very much approaching the release of The Blue Nowhere, your new
It's
album.
almost here. I'm so ready. So ready to get it out there.
I bet you must be
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't, I don't know if this is the best analogy, but like, like a pregnant mother, ready to sort of like meet your new child.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, I think the weirdest thing over the years is there's so much anticipation, and you have really no way to know how people are going to take it. They're either going to like it or not. And I think a lot with us, our records are growers a lot of time for people. So a lot of time you'll get people online like, "Oh, this is not exactly what I wanted to hear," or whatever. And then, a year later they're like, this is my favorite record of theirs. We get a lot of that. But I don't know. It's weird. I think something that's very common with people in bands is you have like this post-release blues because you have like, I mean, we're not there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's so much anticipation and you've worked so hard on something, and then especially nowadays it kind of comes out and then it's kind of over quickly. It's almost like Christmas morning for a kid. It's like there's all this anticipation and it finally gets here, and then it's 1 p.m. and you've already opened all your gifts and it's like, oh, okay, cool.
And I guess in some cases you have people saying your presents are awful and they're
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a message board for opening Christmas presents, but yeah. But
Um,
yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really proud of this record. I think it's really fun. I mean, I think that's a cool takeaway is I think when you listen to it, you can hear the joy we have in creating this stuff, even after as long as we've been doing it. I think we still genuinely like get excited about the places we go and the things that kind of happen when we write that aren't expected at all. So it's fun.
yeah, man, I think you can absolutely tell that with this record. And, I guess kind of starting off, after Colors 2, how did you kind of reset and decide that the Blue Nowhere is where you guys were gonna go?
Well, we knew we wanted to just start from scratch. Colors 2 was the one of the only times in our history where we've kind of written, with a rearview mirror there, kind of analyzing, we wanted to capture not necessarily the music of Colors 1, but just the mentality we had at that moment and just kind of as we felt as a group and as people that write music. But once we started working on this record, we just, like normal, we just started from scratch. And it was nice to just literally start with a blank slate. And, we had some ideas like pretty early on already happening. Blake and Paul had started working on Absent Thereafter, what became Absent Thereafter, just kind of casually when we weren't even writing yet. And Dan had some demos he had. I had a couple demos. So pretty quickly, like once we were like, yeah, let's start figuring out some stuff out. We all just started sharing, and we were like, oh crap, there's quite a bit already to kind of work off of. And you know, the Blue Nowhere idea that didn't really come till later. I normally don't really dive into how I want to approach lyrics and themes and stuff with the album till I kind of have a grasp of where the music's going. But yeah, the music really it like took off. I think it's one of those things when we are in our writing mode, things happen very quickly and really just kind of explode in a way. And it's exciting because you know these little ideas can just blossom into these huge ideas very quickly. I think the cool thing is like because we're always working, you know, individually on ideas, and a lot of time we're working on edits individually or like working on demos we have, and you know maybe I'll send an idea I had, and you know once it's kind of group property, so to speak, everybody kind of is putting their take on it and it just becomes all these new things and all these new avenues kind of start to take place. And before you know it, like sometimes people are working on the same thing and they're like, and we're like, oh, we have like almost a song here just based off of this one little idea. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool how it all works. And our workflow, like we've really got it down to a science this go around. I mean, I can get into the techie side of it, but like we made it where like we had a platform where we focused only on this new record, and because in the past we do it via email or text, you know, and things get jumbled up, and you know this time we really had a separate way to just only focus on these songs, and it was great.
Yeah, man, which is pretty insane because I would say you've probably combined every subgenre there is into, into between the Buried and Me sound.
Yeah.
Well, where's the final frontier of
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's tough. Like I hate to cop out, but like we really don't think in terms of like genre. And when you know when we write, things just kind of like naturally flourish, and you know it's and then before you know it, you're like, oh, this song's pretty crazy. It goes from this to that to this. But yeah, when we're in it, it's just kind of it's part of our DNA at this point. You know, it's what we hear in our heads. You know. It seems totally normal to us, you know.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys have been doing it for 25 years, is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Which
a
is
hell of an
crazy.
achievement, man. It's very,
Yeah.
for a sound that I'm sure, for some people is very polarizing, but
hmm
like you've made something completely your own out of it, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's you know, I am proud of the fact that we've always kind of just we've been very genuine in the way we write music. We've never I mean, there's never been a period where we're like, oh, we need to kind of change our style because this is more important or that's more important or that's more popular. Um, we've never really done that, and you know I'm proud in the fact that we just kind of like really lived in the moment at each record, and I think each record really represents us as musicians and people in that time period.
Totally, man.
What we've learned, what we fear, fame and rebirth, is a lesson of brutality to destroy.
What made you want to kind of have the idea of kind of a collection of thoughts than kind of like a main sort of overarching concept for a record this time around?
Well, yeah, I've always wanted to kind of write about a hotel for whatever reason. I've just always kind of been fascinated with the history and the architecture and just, you know, the fact that there's these structures where all these lives are coming in and out. There's all these ups and downs, and it kind of sums up just like, you know, humanity in a way. So I've always kind of wanted to write about that. And very early on in this, you know, when we were writing, like I realized that each song is very much kind of in its own world. It kind of transports you to a different place each, you know, from song to song. So for me, it was like this is the perfect record for this because I can set it up where each song kind of lives in a different you know area of this constantly you know warping and changing hotel, and I kind of just jumped in and went from there. You know, it wasn't I didn't really have a big plan. And some records I do have a big plan, like Parallax, I storyboarded and all this stuff. But this record I really was just like as simple as what I just said, and I just kind of jumped in and just let the writing kind of like lead me where it needs to go. And still to this day, like I'm like when I look at lyrics, the interpretations I had when I wrote are kind of even slowly changing, which is kind of cool. That normally doesn't happen.
Wow. So it's kind of like almost like the cube, like where it sort of like moves
Yeah, yeah.
around every 24 hours, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I kind of look at it like kind of when a fan reads my lyrics and they kind of interpret things in a way, sometimes it's very different from how I interpreted it when I wrote it, but it's always very valid and interesting for me to like see that stuff because I write very abstract lyrics that kind of probably don't make sense at the end of the day. It's just kind of fumbling out of my brain, but so I'm kind of like I feel like I'm kind of looking at these lyrics kind of like the fan where it's kind of changing for me and I'm like, oh, this could mean that maybe because a lot of the stuff I wrote off really basic prompts and I really just let the pen go for like 20, 30 minutes at a time. And that was kind of like my routine for this record. So a lot of things I would look back and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm even talking about or like, but this sounds like it works, with what's going on in the music. And it was like this big puzzle. And so now I'm kind of like figuring out what it all means to me, which is,
Oh,
which
okay.
is, which is pretty unique.
So were there any sort of like that sounded great at 2:30 in the morning kind of scribble?
Well, I mean, that always happens, but yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff I would write. I actually wrote pretty much I wrote in the morning every day. I dropped my son off at school. I would go to this park every day. I would sit there and write with pen and paper. And I didn't really look at anything I wrote for, after I had a lot written. And then I kind of went back through and tried to read my handwriting. And yeah, it was kind of neat it's weirdly enough, that's how I wrote the song Alaska way back in the day.
No way.
I wrote that we had an overnight drive, in the van, and Paul was driving. We were in a storm, and I was just literally just writing. I was like totally delirious. We hadn't slept, like probably 6 a.m. in the morning or 5 a.m. in the morning, and I just wrote all this stuff, and then just didn't look at it for like a month. And so I was like, oh, that was kind of a fun experiment. I mean, that song is really jumbled, but like I kind of took that idea. I was like, I like the aspect of like putting it all down and then later kind of picking up the pieces and figuring out what makes sense and what doesn't.
Interesting. That's so
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see that it's happened again so much time after,
Yeah.
the
And,
last,
and when I say Alaska, I mean the song Alaska, not the record.
not the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole thing was the scribblings of a
Yeah. I
madman.
just
Like,
within like 30 minutes, I wrote a whole record. But
so I think, one of the things I really loved is the concept of door number three, whatever that
yeah.
might be. Like, is that something that you're prepared to sort of say what's behind door number three, or is it is
I'm still kind of figuring it out. I know that's like, I mean, in my head when I was writing it, I was like, I want, because a lot of this stuff is real kind of, abstract and not like within some sort of storyline.
yeah.
But each song kind of takes place within a space. And door number three, I wanted like an actual event, like it was kind of based around like human violence and like this kind of extreme side of humanity kind of happening in my head, like within this room, which um, I guess door number three would be behind. But I'm kind of curious. I haven't really like looked into a lot of the record in a while. I'm kind of curious to like dive into it. I plan on doing that this upcoming tour. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah, I'm hoping door number three will reveal some things to
Interesting.
me and the fans. Yeah.
It's a bit like Room 101 kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Time, the world moves on.
obviously, I think, the Blue Nowhere for me is like the standout track. I absolutely love that song. How did you guys kind of go about creating it? Because it feels so vastly different for BTBAM.
Yeah, it's a very different song. I mean, it was funny enough. I kind of have a weird obsession with like yacht rock, and I was listening to some playlist, and I just remember texting Paul, just being like, "Dude, we should do like a yacht rock song, kind of in BT Bam style." And it was just kind of that. And, like it was just no, I didn't really think anything would come of it. And before long, he was like, "I kind of worked on something that's kind of in that vein," and he sent it to us, and we instantly were like, "This is cool." Like it kind of, it's different for us, but I mean, at this point, it's still our DNA is in this stuff. It sounds like us to me. Like, and especially once, I remember very quickly after that, Dan kind of started tweaking what Paul wrote, added some other sections to it, and before long, we had like a skeleton that pretty much is what the song is,
Wow.
like very, very quickly. And yeah, we instantly knew, and that was one of the first things we worked on. So, we, even though it was different, we weren't like, well, we shouldn't write like this the whole record. But we know we're like, I think this would be a cool spot somewhere on the record. At that time we didn't know where it would fit in or anything. We knew we liked the song. So, but yeah, it turned out really cool. It was really fun. It was fun for me because it's a simple rock song, and I got to really focus on you know, melody and writing the lyrics that, would make you want to sing. And I worked with a dear friend of mine, Jake Troth, who kind of works more in the mainstream world. And we worked a little bit on vocals together. Just, I wanted to kind of like pick someone else's brain on how they would approach it. And I hadn't really done that before in the past. So it was fun to work with him a little bit on that track.
Wow, that's cool, man. I
Yeah.
think you
Yeah.
can you can really you can really tell that that sort of melody is the most important part of it. And I love the orchestral arrangement as well. I think that was
Yeah.
very much kind of like, oh, I didn't expect this, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot, like, even though it is a very simple song, there's a lot going on. And, there's a pretty dominant lead within the chorus. That was the one thing that like really tripped me up. I was like, I want to like write a really catchy chorus, but also that lead is super catchy. I want to find a way to kind of like make it all. I probably wrote, no joke, 6 different choruses for that song.
Whoa.
And I kept sending things to Paul. I'm like, "God, which one's the one, man?" And we finally like, all right, this is the one, because for me it was like finding the one that works best with the guitar lead,
Yeah.
during the chorus. So that it was a little tricky, but and you always get caught up in your own head and stuff like that. But I'm happy with the outcome. It was a one of my favorite parts of the record for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it was written like pretty much like first up is
Yeah, it
really
was
cool,
very
I
early
think.
on. When I was writing lyrics for that song, the Blue Nowhere is in the first part of the verse, and that was just I don't even know, literally no clue where it came from. Like it just kind of popped out. And throughout the whole writing process, I kept thinking back to that. I was like, it's kind of a cool, the Blue Nowhere sounds kind of cool. Like, and in my head, I was trying to think of, I wanted it to be a name that the hotel could be called, um, like the Blue Nowhere Hotel. So, but yeah, so that it kind of all worked out. It kind of all fell into my lap.
Yeah, man. It's almost like, to me, whenever I think of the Blue Nowhere, it makes me think of like a Wes Anderson kind of like
Yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah. I mean, Grand Budapest Hotel was definitely like in my head a lot,
Oh,
writing some of
okay.
the stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, interesting. It's interesting how that sort of like, moves into it. And does the artwork of the record, does that kind of like play into the idea of the Blue Nowhere? Is it how does that sort of work?
That's normally after the fact. Normally, we had Corey Myers who's worked with us since Coma. It's as simple as I send him lyrics. I send him kind of my idea behind the album, and I always want to get his like first impression, like what comes to you when want to work on something like this. And he sent some initial ideas, and instantly, like, it started to already start to take place, and was I don't know. I liked the white cover. The something about the head was very kind of odd, and you didn't quite understand. Like, it reminded me of, like, what was that company and that show Lost way back in the day, like the Dharma Initiative?
The
Yeah, yeah,
Dharma
yeah.
Initiative.
It
Yeah.
kind of reminded me of that kind of, like, that kind of style, and yeah, it was cool. I instantly was like, yeah, I think this could be a good starting point.
What made you guys decide to, bring an orchestra into proceedings?
Yeah, when we were working on, the record, Dan in particular had written quite a few parts that just needed it. We had written stuff in the past where, yeah, you can get away with using sampled instruments, especially if you're putting, like, really heavy guitar over it. It's not like it's the thing about distortion, it kind of covers a lot anyway. But we were just like, we need that sound. We have to find a way. And I know Dan and I were, we reached out to, like, all these, like, real orchestras, and we very early realized this is outside our budget. We can't afford to do this. Um, but he was just like, dude, I think I can round up enough friends to, like, record this stuff, kind of in pieces. He had different kind of, groups of musicians, and he, like, organized it all, and worked, wrote out all the music, and he recorded all that stuff before we even got in the studio. But yeah, we had a lot of really great players on this record, and there was just parts that it needed that sound that, a plugin or something just wouldn't have done it justice.
Yeah. No, it's a really rich sound as well, and I think
Yeah.
that's what sort of complements the sort of straight ahead feel of the sort of like main riff of that doo-doo-doo-doo, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's just some really cool parts. I mean, there's a part in Slow Paranoia that's primarily just orchestra, drums, bass, and, vocals, and it's to me, it's like my crooner moment. It's like it was a really, but it gets pretty crazy, and it's such a weird part of that song. And yeah, I love that we're, still trying all these new elements in our music. And I don't know, it's a very adventurous record. I think an orchestra just, you know really really works with this album. I think it's a theatrical record, I guess, is a good way to put it. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true actually.
I think it
Yeah.
works.
I hadn't really thought about the theatrical element, but you're right. And I think it's kind of in a weird way a bit of like a best of all the different eras of BT BAM I found in.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, I mean, that's not something we, like, try to do, but looking back when music is done, it's like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of, there's a lot of stuff that kind of brings me back to, like, Great Misdirect in a weird way with
Oh,
this
really?
record. I don't, yeah, I think it might be because the songs kind of live in their own world. That was kind of how that record's structured as well.
Hmm.
Um, and there's, like, a kind of darkness to a lot of it where, I think is very, prominent on, the Great Misdirect.
For sure. Like, and sort of playing devil's advocate to that question, do you ever get like super annoyed when people are like, "Oh, it sounds like this and this"?
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
sake,
I
not
mean,
again.
I get it. I get it. It's not like but yeah, it's, as someone that you're just like, listen to it like a new record. You
Yeah,
don't need to,
yeah.
like, you don't need to figure out what it sounds like. You're like, does it bring you joy or not? Yeah, it's like that. What's that interior designer that,
Oh, Marie Kondo.
yeah, yeah, that's like, does it bring you joy or not?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Can you
so,
fold it? Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, man. No, I totally understand that. And so one of the things I wanted to ask was again, sort of, looking at um the lyrics and things like that. What
yeah.
would be something that you would tell yourself in the dark?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm pretty open, to people around me. I don't think I don't know the reason for that song title, because that song is about ego, and I think it's a very important thing to shed in life, and it's kind of I just created this character that's basically just an asshole and thinks he's better than everyone else, and that's I just wanted this like because the song felt very confident. I just imagined this person walking into this hotel, larger than life, better than everyone else. And that's kind of the prompt I gave myself to write lyrics. And, the title was like, even though these super egotistical people and like these powerful, people in society, there's always these moments when we're alone and we're, in the dark at night or by yourself when you're truly honest with yourself, you may not be as fucking awesome as you think you are. And, deep down, I think a lot of these super, arrogant people are pretty sad people and, have these thoughts that are just kind of like, I have to put up this shield because if people really knew how I felt, it would ruin my image or whatever. And so that was just kind of the inspiration behind that title.
To all the egos we've soared out.
That's something I really worked on in my 40s for sure. It's like, dude, just be you. It doesn't matter. Like unapologetically, I can't say that word. Be yourself,
Yeah.
and be truthful and honest, and show love to those you love. And I think you know I think anybody in their 20s, especially, or teens, you have these moments of having an ego, and you just realize very early on, hopefully, that it causes issues and problems in your life. So yeah, that was kind of the basis behind that world I created in that track.
Okay, that's really interesting, man. Because yeah, I mean, like you say, you do kind of have to leave your ego at the door, and when people are like that, it is very much kind of almost like a defense mechanism sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the older you get, the easier it is to read into that, you know. You're like, this person's just not genuine at all, but you want to shake them and be like, dude, you would be so sick if you just chilled out and like
Yeah,
just let your freaking nerd flag fly or whatever, like
yeah,
you don't need to impress anyone, so
yeah, exactly. Um, and also, kind of looking at each of these different songs, if you
Mhm.
had to sort of represent yourself in one of these tracks from the
Oh
record,
man,
what would that be?
that's tough, dude. That's really tough. Pro- I don't know, man. That's like the hardest question ever. Because if I say the wrong song, I'm gonna look like a maniac. Because I mean, I don't know. Like I'm a very, I would say upbeat person a lot, but also like most people, I can get very sad and down, and
Of course.
and put up walls, and I don't know, have anxiety, and um, God, that's tough, dude. I don't know if I can answer that one. I
That's
would
all
have
right.
to I would have to listen. It's been so long since I've listened through. I don't know.
But I think,
Definitely not things we tell. I'm not that confident. God Terra might be a little too scary. Um, even though I primarily wrote most of that one, so that might be me. Absent, probably not. That's a little too fun for me. Yeah, one of those like middle tracks that are kind of just all over the place and crazy, take you all these different routes.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
think but even the fact that you kind of just went down that route of like, I'm a bit of this, I'm a bit of that, it feels
Yeah.
like, especially the final track, which is Beautifully Human, I think, is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
It kind of
yeah,
speaks to that, right?
yeah. I love that song. I think just the end of the record, I think it's a really nice. It's like because I think people always expect this like huge epic ending to our albums. And I think it achieves that, but it's in a very different way. It's in like a pleasant, kind of nice, um, I don't know, the ending just it makes you feel pretty good. And then there's like a slow uneasiness at the very end.
Yeah.
But it's cool, like the way we set it up is you if you put the record on again, it's in the same key and it loops really well together. So that was kind of a that was on purpose. So you can sit there and just keep it on repeat. No, it will make sense.
Things we tell ourselves in the
That's cool though, man. There was, I will absolutely like admit that there was times where I finished that song and there was like doop the first time,
Yeah.
just to see
Yeah.
if it like correlated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to be cool. I'm a fucking nerd when it comes to this.
Yeah, I mean it's that stuff's fun. You know, the little things are so fun to us. That's something we've really grown to enjoy. I mean, even in writing music, we love the real like subtle nuance, like sound design stuff, and just little nuggets here and there where you throw on headphones and you hear these things that you wouldn't normally hear, and and something like that, like where 50 people are going to care about it, but that's cool to us, that
Yeah,
those 50 people are like, oh, I can replay the record. It's in the same key. It worked,
yeah.
so
It feeds the Reddit forums.
exactly. Yeah.
It's been like, 25 years that you guys have been a band. What would you
Yeah.
say, you've learned the most about yourself in that time?
Oh man, that's tough. Be patient. I think patience is a huge thing. Enjoy the moment. Like in this business, you're always, I mean, you're in the music business. It's like you're always looking like 6 months down the road. So it's almost like you're just pushing time forward.
Yeah.
And it before, I mean, once you have kids, it's like it all kind of collates, and you're just time's just disappearing, So it's, patience is huge, and just like n not having too many expectations, just like being yourself, just seeing what happens. I think very early on, especially when you start meeting record label people and just people in the business, you have people saying this and that and like making you feel like you're gonna be some star or something. Like you just have to, I don't know. For me, it's like just wait and see what happens. Don't have these crazy expectations. Do your work, work hard, have a crazy work ethic, and be creative and have fun. It's all that stuff. I think we all kind of can agree that that's like a huge part of the band is, we're just being ourselves, and we just put your head down, do the work, and what happens happens, and don't take it for granted, because I think, as we all know, like bands come and go, and the fact that we're 25 years in and still writing records, and we're still excited about the music we're writing, and fans are as well, it's cool. And we
Amazing.
get to tour, yeah, even
Yeah.
though these songs are racking my brain. I'm in rehearsal mode right now, so I'm just like, oh my God. The dumbest thing I do when I get ready for tour is I do a PDF document of all the lyrics for the whole tour. And I always scroll through the whole thing just to be like, oh, I have to say all these words every night. And it just instantly gives me the worst anxiety ever, because I'm like, this is freaking novel. What am I doing?
Yeah, you go back and you're like, why did I make this bit so long?
Yeah, but
Amazing.
it's gonna be cool. We're
Yeah.
almost ready. So yeah.
Yeah, that's insane, man, that you that you write down all of the lyrics that you have and then you're
Well,
kind
I
of
don't write them down. I just go through and get them from, various documents over the years. But yeah, it's very daunting. I don't know why I do that. It's like when we write music, if especially when we have, because I normally start lyrics kind of way late in the game, probably like three-fourths of the record done musically is when I start kind of really putting my heels in the dirt, figuring out lyrics. And if I look at the album as a whole, it's like the wave of anxiety. I'm just like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? But I mean, just like anything, it's like I just have to focus on It's like, oh, today I'm gonna start working on this song. Pretend that nothing else exists, and then
Yeah.
just kind of going, literally start. It's a long process, but you've learned to kind of like compartmentalize all that so you don't bring on waves of anxiety. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No one wants that, man. Just, chip away at it, and that's,
Yeah, yeah.
how
And you
the
don't want to rush anything. You want things to feel good and natural. And, I like having like reflection periods. I think we all do with our music. It's like being able to sit on things and, because there's been times in the past where you're like, you kind of wait too long and you're up against deadlines and you just kind of throw something down. You're like, shit, I could have done that part a little better. Or, that's all part of it. I
I
think,
can imagine though you're a little bit of a
yeah.
perfectionist, right? Like, and you're like,
Yeah, we all are. Yeah, I mean, but we all like we're very much perfectionists, but we all are very aligned in the way we want things to be. So we're not like constantly butting heads of like how we want things to change. I think our goal is always, the best song possible, the best album possible, but those definitions are we kind of share the same definition for what those are.
mhm.
So I think it's pretty cool how like in line we are with each other and in sync we are with each other when it comes to really like getting in the songs and changing what needs to be changed and things like that.
Yeah, man.
Revel into cover. Speak up and be.
Yeah, man. And how do you like talking about, that sense of anxiety and stuff? How do you process that as a front man? Like, you're the main, you're the guy. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
screaming at everyone and being like,
yeah.
wake the fuck up. All this sort of stuff.
It's still weird to me, man. Like I don't know, on the day to day, I'm a dad and that's my life and there's times where we haven't if there's a chunk where I haven't been on tour in a while, I'm in my head I'm just like I can't even imagine like that I get on stage and do this. It's crazy to me. But yeah, I guess you just become, it's kind of second nature at this point. It's just such a part of me that I try to not really think about it that much, and I just kind of get up there and let what happens. But I've always struggled with like anxiety and being, as people probably notice, I don't talk a lot on stage. I stumble on my words when I do talk, and like I'm super like conscious about that, even though I try not to be. And you try to not like think of like, oh, do I look stupid up here? Like, is this part sound? It's like you don't want to get in your head. And
Yeah.
I think that's something over the years you learn, like, we'll fuck up parts and it's like funny now, where it
Yeah.
used to be, there was a time period in in this band where like I would mess up and I would be pissed at myself, like, God damn it, like what the fuck. But now it's like, who cares, dude? It's
Yeah.
it's human, and at this point, especially, it's nice to see that humanity. I think, especially even in the live setting, there's so many bands that utilize all these things that make everything perfect, and yeah, I think it's, I don't know. When I watch a band, I'm like, I love to see like someone drop a stick, or
Yeah.
or the singer completely forget the words, or So
Yeah,
it's
totally.
it's all part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can be like, oh shit, did you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
We are going home. My blurry eyes are seeking an inner voice gasp.
I think, that there is, like you say, beauty and imperfection, really. Like those classic albums, they have the songs where the guitar was like slightly out of tune or something.
Yeah, I
You
love that. Yeah, and I don't think that will come back like in a grand scale by any means. But yeah, I mean, you listen to Led Zeppelin solos and like some of these old, they're sloppy as hell.
Yeah.
Like they're you hear pick noise, you hear, a note that's not fully fretted properly, but it's cool. It's like that moment is totally captured. So I personally enjoy that. And obviously certain kinds of music it works well
Mhm.
for, a band like us. you have a million things happening at once. I think if everything was super loose, it would just sound like a fucking mess. But yeah, I think certain types of music, that looseness and sloppiness is kind of cool.
Yeah, man. So there's not going to become like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, not at this point. Maybe in 20 years, who knows?
So, one of the things you sort of mentioned it earlier on, but the whole like ending of an album thing, I was sort
Yeah.
of wondering, have you guys kind of almost been like, oh shit, we've painted ourselves into a corner a little bit here with like how you finish records? How does it?
In a way, I think beginning and ends are always tough for us.
Yeah.
Um, I think beginning is normally tough for us than anything because we have so many records and you're like, oh, we've done the piano thing, we've done like the super long intro, we've done the just kick in with like super aggressive stuff, so you kind of always have that in your head. But like with this album, we originally had kind of like a overture thing written, but we just loved something about how just things we tell kicks in, and it's just so different. It kind of like instantly transports you to this different place, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few BTBAM songs I feel like in general that just the vocals kick in super fast. It's kind of like you press play and you're in. You're like, oh shit, it's already happening. So I think that it's kind of cool. We haven't really done that much. But yeah, the end, I don't know. I mean, for us, it's like you're trying to wrap up the whole record in some sense, and you're trying to do that within like a small period of time within a song. Um, but you try to not think about it too. I think if you're like shit, we have to like you know go over these people, these expectations that people have for these songs. Like I don't know, it'll start messing with how you write it. So we just kind of like I don't know this ending. It kind of naturally happened, and Dan and Paul especially are very good at that. Kind of musically tying in themes throughout the record and kind of wrapping up. And obviously Paul's very good at triumphant solos and all those things. So yeah, I think it's a cool ending. And there's a really not to go too long, but I don't even think I've talked about this yet. The very last lines of the record was an accident. Um, I originally wrote different lyrics, but I have lyric when I'm recording, I have lyrics kind of everywhere, so it's kind of a mess. And I think it was from Things We Tell Ourselves in the Dark, a little chunk that was on the wall, and I accidentally sung that for the end of Beautifully Human. And when I recorded, I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool." I was like, for some reason, it didn't feel like, how I demoed it. What was different. And then I did it again, and like the dark didn't work, so I left it out. And I was like, "Why isn't this working?" And I was like, "Oh, this is the wrong lyrics." But then I was like, "Oh man, like to be like a cheesy poetic guy." I was like, "Oh, if I leave dark out and it goes blank, it's like that's the darkness." And I was like, these lyrics, this is it like gave me chills. It's like this moment I have to keep it. It has to like this was a complete accident. I've said the wrong lyrics. I was like, it ties in, this whole theme of like honesty and like coming to life with yourself and like finding purpose in life and all these things. And it was perfect. It was just this cool moment. And I just remember talking to Jamie about it, and I was like, dude, this is like insane that this happened. It's never happened before, and it all worked out. It was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Those things
So
happen, and like
yeah,
we were saying, that's the imperfection, right? But
yeah, yeah,
it just enhances it. Not
yeah.
imperfection, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I messed up, and but it was just funny. I was like, just something doesn't, it feels weird about this. I don't know, or different, I guess is the word. Because we heavily demo, and I record, vocals for everything before we go in the studio, so I kind of have an idea of everything I want it to be like. But yeah, it was cool. It was a cool little moment.
amazing. And finally, you are obviously coming to the UK. Very, very stoked about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there going to be a couple of songs performed off of the Blue Nowhere? Will it be a
I
full
think
Blue
so.
Nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even thought about it, honestly. I mean, we're getting ready to do this US tour next week. It's a good chunk of Blue Nowhere, lots of old stuff, a nice kind of like varied set. So we'll probably do something similar to that, I'm sure. That's kind of we kind of miss doing that. We've been the last few years we've done since COVID, we've kind of done so many like album tours and playthroughs, stuff like that. So it's nice to kind of put together a set of songs, past and present.
Excellent. Well, the Blue Nowhere is out very, very shortly, and
Yep.
anyone who is watching this video should absolutely stream it, buy it, all that sort of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm gonna cut this interview where it just fades black.
Yeah.
So thank you ever so much, Tommy, for appearing on the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And
Of
yeah,
course. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it was awesome.